All right. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Once again, we find ourselves here standing in for our communities, for our neighborhoods, for our families, for our youth, for a fight for common sense gun legislation. As Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children, we are honored to be here once again to have this platform to let our voices be heard. I got to give honor to God today because without him, I could do none of this. Neither could none of us. All of the things that we do as Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children was birthed because God put purpose down on the inside of us. Most of it was birthed from pain. For myself, I got involved because in 2020, just a random day, I'm going to bed one night and a young man I was following on Facebook posted about a concert coming September 29th of 2020 to the Story Lounge. The week before, I had watched this young man read a book to his daughter's preschool class live on Facebook with balloons on his head, right? Thought it was nice, of course, seeing a father, being a father. I wake up the next morning, which was September 25th of 2020, get to work, driving the CODA bus, open up my scripture for the day, and open up Facebook, and that young man had been murdered overnight at the Story Lounge. His name was Carrington Willis. For whatever reason that day, it went all through me. I start asking God questions like, why our community? Why our kids? Why so much hurt? Why so much pain? And within that day, that's when purpose came into me, and it was like, step into your spot, into the position that God has for you, and do your part. Each one of us are here because we have a part to play. We are standing in front of this building because this building has a part to play. Each one of us are designed and born because we have something for a time such as now to put out for this fight. Our legislators are no different. Our children have to go to school and be worried about being gunned down. Our children cannot go to the parks and play freely and feel comfortable. Our children don't even know what it's like to be children anymore. Some of us, looking back at our own childhoods, realize that our children cannot do the things that they used to do because it is not safe for them. Common sense gun laws allows our children to go to school and feel safe. It allows our children to play at playgrounds and ride their bikes throughout the neighborhood and feel comfortable. My daughter spoke at the Wear Orange event, and it touched most people's heart because she talked about the fact that she wasn't allowed to go to football games. She wasn't allowed to go to basketball games. It's no reason why our children should be worried the way they are about the issues they are worried about with everyday things that kids are supposed to enjoy. These are the years that they are supposed to look back and remember the things when their innocence was still there. Our children's innocence is being stolen by the way our society is being led. I always come up with a call to action every single time that I speak, and today is no different. We are calling out to our legislators to pass common sense gun safe laws. It's bigger than just us. It's bigger than being Republicans or Democrats. It's bigger than politics. Our children are our future, and right now we are losing them at a mass rate, and it's unacceptable. I will also put out a call to action to each and every person listening today, because like I said, we're all born for a time such as now. That means that there is something that you are assigned for the time that you are alive, and when you don't step into position, you leave people behind. Figure out where you're supposed to be. And it doesn't matter if you're the janitor. You might have access to somebody that's passing you every day that you may be able to speak life into. All of us have a responsibility right now to step up for our community, to step up for our children, to model a behavior that we want to see from our children. We are raising up future leaders, but we are also losing them. And we're losing them, and we don't have to. I urge everybody to get involved in some way. Show up even in support. It doesn't have to be your voice. It doesn't have to be protest. It can be peaceful and with love. If you show up every day with love, it supersedes any hate that this world could give us out. Tonight, mothers of murdered Columbus children will be on the Ridge Street Bridge. Every mother that's out there will lock a lock on the Ridge Street Bridge in honor of their child that they lost to violence in this community. It will be at 8:45. I would urge you to let today be your first step in coming out and supporting your community in this fight. August 8th, there is an election. I urge each and every person to go out and vote. If there's something you don't know about, reach out to somebody who does. Sometimes the intimidation to vote is because sometimes we don't have the information that we feel like we need to make the right decision, so we just don't go. That's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough anymore. Ask questions, reach out, talk to somebody about what's on the ballots so you can have a clear understanding and make your choice on that vote. I would love to see everyone tonight at the Locks of Love on that bridge. We have mothers who are going through trauma and pain that they didn't sign up for. We always say that we never want to see another sister in an orange shirt. But we're seeing mothers weekly, daily, and it's not okay. That's why it's important for us to vote, and that's why it's important for us to pressure our legislation for common sense gun laws. Next up, we will have Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you. Thank you, Janae, and thank you to all the mothers of murdered Columbus children that are here. Moms Demand Action, so many other great activists that are passionate about keeping our kids and our families, our neighborhoods safe. I want to thank Pastor Lamar, Family Missionary Baptist Church, and these amazing young men that are part of a great summer youth program. What we're talking about today is about you and your future. You matter. We value you. And that's why we got to come together and fight for your future, to make sure you stay safe. You know, Janae's story speaks volumes about the trauma that's inflicted upon this community by the horrors of gun violence. No shooting, no death is just a number. Each represents a father, mother, brother, sister, friend, neighbor, and each one causes ever-widening ripples of unspeakable grief, pain, and loss. We are committed to ending this vicious cycle once and for all. We're here today to say loud and clear and unequivocally that this violence must end, and we need our state legislators to use every lever at their disposal to get the guns off our streets and bring down the violence. Neighbors, here's the simple truth. Ever since the federal assault weapons ban expired in 2004, we've seen a steady proliferation of guns pouring into America's cities. So far this year, there have been 88 homicides in Columbus. 78 of those 88 homicides involve the use of a gun. It's almost 90%. We've also seen a disturbing rise in domestic violence-related deaths. We're already at 15 in 2023, accounting for all of the uptick in homicides we've seen this year and more. This is particularly important when you consider the fact that more than 1 in 3 women report experiencing abuse from a partner throughout their lifetime. And abusers and firearms are 5 times more likely to kill their female victims. Last year, CPD recovered more than 3,300 firearms, the most ever collected by the division. And we're on track to recover more guns this year than we did in 2022. More than 1,900 guns have already been recovered in Columbus year to date. Nationwide, gun violence is now the leading cause of death among America's children for the first time in recorded history. Think about that for a second. A child in America is more likely to die as a result of gun violence than a car accident for the first time in the history of the Republic. more than cancer, drownings, more than every other risk, hazard, or illness. Gun violence is a public health crisis, and it is killing our children. All of this demonstrates just how deadly and detrimental gun violence is to the safety and security of our communities. And all of this makes abundantly clear why the city of Columbus took the historic step of declaring gun violence as a public health crisis back in February of last year. And yet, what have our leaders in the State House done to address this issue, even after the calls to do something after a mass shooting killing our neighbors in Dayton? They've turned a blind eye to reality and fact and reason, passed the most dangerous and reckless gun laws in the history of the state, going against law enforcement, going against prosecutors, going against research and evidence, putting our neighborhoods and our officers at greater risk. Take Senate Bill 215, for example, which eliminated the concealed carry permit requirement. This drastic change puts the burden on police to determine whether an individual is armed, which only escalates the danger and the uncertainty law enforcement face each and every day on the streets of Columbus and in the streets of cities across our state. As you can see, extremist lawmakers have made matters worse. The laws they push through allow practically anyone to own a gun with zero training. And that kind of wild, wild west mentality has no chance of making our families or our officers safer. We need the state and federal governments to step up to help us keep illegal guns off our streets. And if they don't have the courage to act, they need to get out of our way so that we can do what we know we need to do to protect our communities. We're just talking about common sense gun safety legislation here. Universal background checks, red flag laws, repealing permitless carry. These are laws supported by clear majorities from every walk of life. All Ohioans from all over the state support these. A poll just in the past few weeks came out that said that 92% of Ohioans support mandatory background checks. 92%. 74% support red flag laws. We know what we need to do. And if the legislature will not act on behalf of the overwhelming majority of Ohioans, they need to get out of our way so that we can protect the people of our communities. The City of Columbus is doing all that we can to enact common sense gun safety legislation at the local level. But cynical legal challenges championed by Attorney General Yost have bogged down our reforms in the courts, and Columbus families are paying the price. Despite these setbacks, we remain undaunted. City Attorney Klein is pushing back against these brazen attempts to rob cities like Columbus of our rightful ability to ensure the safety, security, and well-being of the very lives we're elected to serve and protect. Those legal battles are still underway, and they will continue until we pursue every possible avenue to secure our ability to govern our cities just as the Ohio Constitution intended. But we're also proceeding purposefully and intentionally on a variety of other fronts. We're passing out gun lock boxes for free and in record numbers. Maybe we wouldn't need so many lock boxes if we didn't have so many guns. I've also stood up the city's first ever Office of Violence Prevention. We're devoting historic sums of funding to neighborhood safety, summer youth programming, and dozens of prevention and intervention efforts. We're hiring record numbers of police officers and firefighters, and we completed the first major reorganization of our police forces in over 10 years, making sure we have the right number of officers in the right places at the right times. But more needs to be done. All of us have a role to play in making our neighborhoods safer. Legislators, prosecutors, judges, employers, faith leaders, parents, everyone. We believe that collaboratively we can and we must do better as a community. At the same time, we'll continue to push for common sense gun safety legislation, just as we're doing here today. It makes a difference for even one Columbus family. It's worth giving this fight everything we've got. This is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. Bob Taft stood up to the gun lobby. John Kasich stood up to the gun lobby. We need these legislators to stand up to extremists and put children and families first. We're fortunate to have an incredible, passionate, outspoken, and determined partner in our leader, Allison Russo. We know she and her colleagues are swimming against the tide, but they're not backing down, and neither are we. We're so grateful for their continued partnership. Please welcome our leader, Allison Russo.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am State Representative Allison Russo, also the Ohio House Minority Leader. I want to thank Mayor Ginther, as well as the wonderful groups that we have here, Moms Demand, Janae, for being here, our partners from the city, to assemble and have this news conference to talk about this important issue that is plaguing our schools, our communities, and the ability of our first responders, our law enforcement, to keep us all safe in our communities. Listen, let's call a spade a spade. Ohio has some of the worst pro-gun crime and anti-cop laws in the country, and nothing has been done about it. And in fact, we've got a legislature, a supermajority behind me, who makes it worse. On average, more than 1,700 people die by guns in Ohio each year. We have the 24th highest rate of gun deaths in the country, and we have the 18th highest rate of unintentional gun deaths, things like suicide and accidental shootings, in the U.S. And as was mentioned before, gun violence is now the leading cause of death for our children. That should outrage every single citizen in this state, and I believe that it does. These numbers do not lie. Gun violence is a public health crisis and has overtaken many of our cities, including Columbus, our great state of Ohio, because the gun death rate is high even in rural communities, and our entire nation. The numbers don't lie either when it comes to what Ohioans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents want us to do about it. They have been very clear about this. A new USA Today Suffolk University poll shows that the majority of Ohioans across party lines, they support mandatory background checks, they support banning high-capacity magazines or assault-style weapons, they support red flag laws, a piece of legislation I've carried every General Assembly that I've been here, and they support liability laws that mandate safe storage. For years now, Democrats, my Democratic colleagues here in the House and the Senate, we have been pushing for these very same laws here in the state of Ohio because we know that most Ohioans support this. This is not partisan. This is about what is best for Ohio because we know, Ohioans know, that common sense gun laws will save lives. But instead, for years, all we've seen come out of this extremist gerrymandered state house are laws that encourage more gun crimes, like the shoot first, or laws that endanger our law enforcement officers, like removing the duty to notify, and that tie the hands of our local officials to be able to deal with the violence in their communities. Things like preemption laws that preempt local and federal gun laws. Nothing but pro-gun violence and anti-cop laws has come out of this legislature in the last decade. But together we can stop this. And I want you to listen to the stories that are being told here today. And I want you to never stop fighting for what you know is right. That means talking to your local leaders in your schools, your community centers, and your town halls. That means demanding that your state representative, that your state senator, and that any legislative leader in this building behind me, that they stand up and they fight for the people of Ohio, not the gun lobby and not the gun manufacturing groups. And that means that we want to make sure that your voice is heard at the ballot box, whether you're voting no on issue 1 on August 8th, or you're standing up and you're supporting local elected officials on the November ballot who can make a difference within your local communities by passing stronger anti-gun, violence reducing ordinances. Because we are here together to say that our children, I see we had a group of children here and we have 2 right here. These children deserve better. They deserve more from us. They deserve to be able to grow up in this state and have a thriving future, not to have to worry about being gunned down, walking to school, being in their school building, or just hanging out at a family event in their neighborhood. They deserve better than that. Our first responders deserve better than that. And most importantly, all of Ohio deserves better than this. So thank you very much. And next I'm going to pass it off to my incredible colleague over in the Senate, Senator Hearcel Craig.
Fannie Lou Hamer, a famous civil rights leader, said this: "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And so just to make the point clear, this is not an esoteric experience. Certainly want to thank the mayor and the council members and all that they are doing. Certainly City Attorney Klein for your work. I certainly need to acknowledge the work of Moms Demand Action and Mothers Against Murdered Children. For you to be here today, it's already been said, we pray and hope that there's not another mother standing here of a murdered child. Over 4 years ago, in the city of Dayton, took 1 minute, 1 minute, 9 people were dead, 17 people were injured. Over 2,500 mass shootings 4 years after that. 2,500 mass shootings nationwide. 101 across Ohio. 21 alone in Columbus. The mayor's already spoke to that issue. I've gone to funerals, I either preach funerals of 13 and 14-year-olds looking Bishop over in a casket of a 14-year-old child. 4 years after, they asked us to do something. And yet the question remains, leader, what have we done? She's already eloquently described it, is that it's really been exacerbated with these extremely harmful and dangerous efforts to block initiatives that could help people's lives. Senate Bill 215, the permitless gun concealed carry legislation. Senate Bill 175, replacing the duty to retreat with stand your ground. House Bill 99, allowing teachers to carry firearms in schools where they need to be teaching our children and ensuring that they're building ladders of opportunities for them. So the struggle goes on. I introduced legislation in the Senate, Senate Bill 78, Mayor, to restore our city's ability to regulate guns, and I'm working hard to introduce more legislation in the coming days. We've been doing this over these last several years to ensure that our families and children will have an opportunity to live. And that's what this day is really all about, ensuring as the mayor's already described it so eloquently, that our children, it is a public health crisis, that our children and families would have an opportunity to live. And so that's what this is really about. We want to make sure that you're holding us accountable. We can't do our jobs in a vacuum or a silo. None of us here, nor should we. And for those that make decisions, and these very dangerous decisions, in terms of the proliferation of gun laws, I wake up every morning in my community hearing gunfire. This is not something just to say, Bishop, but I wake up in the morning hearing gunshots in my community. Down the street, Pastor Lamar, who just left, 4 or 5 years ago, we had 17 murders in that community. This is real, and it's palatable. We ought to be doing something. This is effective for all of our children, whether you live in the central city or not. All over our state, families are being affected by this. And so today it's about us linking hands and saying very clearly to the legislature, the mayor's already said if you can't do it, then get out of the way, so that the municipalities, those that are on the ground, can make decisions about our children and their lives. I have 11 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. And if you don't have them, all children are our children. We need to be making certain that we have common sense gun laws. This is not against those that have the weapons and use them in an appropriate way. This is about why do you have an automatic weapon to go deer hunting, to shoot 30 bullets at a time? Why do we need that? And all of the people that are losing their lives. So we've got much work to do, and today is about that. Linking arms to making sure that we're making it categorically clear. Enough is enough. And this is the time to make sure that if we save one life, that life is worth it. Thank you very much. Now I have the honor of bringing up City Attorney Zach Klein.
Thank you, Senator Craig. How's everyone doing? To my friends with mothers of murdered Columbus children, to my friends with Moms Demand Action, my fellow elected officials in the city and state government, we have a gun violence problem in this country, in this state, and in Columbus. Gun violence is a problem. It's a problem that's robbing the future of many men under the age of primarily 25 years old that are threatening the streets of our city and cities across the United States. And I think we have to come to the realization that there's not one single solution that we can do that's going to solve this problem. But at the same time, we can reflect and accept the reality that there is a collective group of decisions that we can make that can solve this problem. We have to continue investing in police to get dangerous people off the streets, to get guns off the streets. We have to continue to invest in prosecutors that ask for tough sentences and prosecute very violent individuals. We need our judges to step up and give high bonds and tough sentences for violent individuals who are repeat offenders and carry guns illegally. We need to invest in people like Pastor Lamar and the Ministry for Movement and the young men that he brought here to give them an opportunity for hope and success. And finally, we need the political will. And that's why we're here today. The lack of political will. I can say wholeheartedly, I've seen it firsthand in the relationship that I have with the mayor and the city council, that the city of Columbus has the political will and has exercised its political will to make a difference in making our community safer as it relates to gun violence. The state of Ohio, for example, allows individuals who have domestic violence convictions to possess a gun. The state of Ohio thinks that's okay. We don't, and neither does the federal government. So we passed our own law. We think that when you have children present in your house, that your gun that's locked and loaded should be stored safely so that children don't find it in a couch cushion. Real example, by the way. Real example. They don't find it in a couch cushion and then point it at their face, discharge it, and narrowly blow their brains out. We have the political will in the city of Columbus. We need the political will in this building right here by legislative Republicans who don't give a damn about the gun violence epidemic in this country and in this city. And we need them to step up and join the 70 to 90% of Ohioans. We need them to step up to join the 70 to 90% of Ohioans to have universal background checks, to have red flag laws, to provide training for individuals who want to possess a firearm, and to have safe storage. These aren't fringe ideas. These are supported overwhelmingly by Republicans and Democrats. But yet it falls on deaf ears. And when I picked up the paper and saw President Huffman's quote that he really doesn't care what a majority of Ohioans think, that is not good for democracy. That is an alarm bell, 5-alarm fire for representative democracy in this state. That he doesn't care what 70 to 90% of Ohioans think. We should all be alarmed. But that's what happens when you have gerrymandered districts, special money interests like utility companies, and fringe groups that drive the agenda. When that happens, you get the opposite. You create an atmosphere where everyone can have a gun with no training, where domestic violence offenders who've proven to beaten their spouse and injured them, yeah, you can have a gun. Duty to retreat? Nah, shoot first. Those are fringe ideas, driven by a fringe agenda. And we as Ohioans can't accept that anymore. Real lives are at stake. Real lives. Little kids, adults, moms, dads, grandmas and grandpas. It's time for us to have the political will. And the reality is, I don't know every member of the state legislature. I know some. And I know they agree. They need to find the courage and join with us and do the right thing to adopt the ideas that we're putting forth in the city of Columbus and that are overwhelmingly supported by 70 to 90% of Ohioans. Let's prove to the state of Ohio and to those 70 to 90% that we hear you, we can work together, and we can get things done to make a difference and save lives, because I know a lot of them, like me, got into this business to make a difference. But let's make a difference in a positive way, not make a difference in a negative way. So right now, I want to bring up my friend on City Council who has helped champion some of these great ideas. That's Councilmember Emmanuel Remy.
Good morning. Thank you, City Attorney Klein, to our friends at the state, Leader Russo, Senator Craig, to Moms Demand Action, and Mothers Against Columbus Murdered Children. Thank you for telling your story and being sure that we understand the pain that you experience every single day and the reason why we stand here today. Thank you to Mayor Ginther for bringing us together, and I would be remiss not to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Favor and Councilmember Brown. I firmly believe that public safety is a right. And Columbus City Council has taken steps to address gun violence through thoughtful, common sense legislation. And I'm sure it won't come as a surprise, as you've heard today, that these efforts are being challenged by outside forces from folks right here working in this state house. Those that should not have a say on how our city, our community decides what's best for us. Our residents know best, and they have made it loud and clear that they want common sense gun protections. As a council member, I constantly am talking with the community and with residents, hearing about their wants and needs of local leadership. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that public safety is our community's #1 concern, regardless of neighborhood, profession, or family size. This council, this city, is committed and will be relentless in our efforts to protect our residents and our law enforcement officers, no matter what interference comes our way, especially from this building. Columbus City Council and the City of Columbus will not back down. We will be creative and demand leadership and cooperation from our state leadership. And I am thankful to leaders like Leader Russo and Senator Craig, Senator DeMora, for fighting alongside us, side by side. There are prevention efforts that we are taking right now, immediately. I'm pleased to have my colleagues here, both Mitch Brown and Shayla Faber, join me in our Lock Your Guns, Love Our Children campaign to raise awareness of this easily preventable accidental shootings that have plagued our community this year. 14 children have been shot this year accidentally by picking up a gun. And it is as simple as this to help protect our children, to make sure that never happens again. One is too many. We have made these free locks available at every single firehouse in the city of Columbus. Lock them up. You can't take a bullet back, and please do not leave a loaded gun in your car. Give me a break. It will take all of us, city, county, state, and federal leadership, community leaders, faith leaders, neighbors, block watch leaders, parents, teachers, you name it. It takes all of us to stand together to curb gun violence. And I join these leaders today to say, work with us. It's exhausting talking about these right-wing crazy people up here who try to circumvent what we're trying to do as a city. Get out of our way. We're protecting our communities from gun violence through relationships, programming, and legislation. We do not need you to stand in our way. And here they are wanting to take away majority rule. So they have even more power. These right-wing crazies are up here trying to tell you that you need to vote to take away a majority rule. So on August 8th, make sure you make an informed decision and let people lead from a local level. Let your voice be heard as a majority. Vote no on issue 1. Thank you for having me, and I'm very pleased to welcome my colleague and friend, Shayla Faber.
Good morning. Thank you, Councilmember Remy. Let me first extend my appreciation to Mayor Ginther, City Attorney Klein, Representative Russo, Senator Craig, and Councilmember Remy, as well as Councilmember Brown, for being here with us this morning. We stand together, and we are stronger every time we talk about the need for common sense gun legislation in the city of Columbus and the state of Ohio. Every June, we come together to observe National Gun Violence Awareness by wearing orange. So today, I wear orange as a statement that we will not stop fighting for a future that is free from gun violence, not just in June, but in every single day. Since joining council in 2019, my mission has been very clear. I will use every tool available to make the lives of our neighbors better. I ran for office to ensure that Columbus residents are heard and that they feel safe in their communities, a reality that we have yet to achieve. Gun violence, as we have heard over and over again, has become an epidemic in our country. To address it, we need more than thoughts and prayers. We need concrete actions. every local jurisdiction has their uniqueness. That includes its challenges and its opportunities that must be tailored to the residents that we serve. And yet, we are preempted at every corner. I was elected to take action to the best of my ability on these important issues, just like gun violence. And it is clear, as evidenced by the survey in the Columbus Dispatch, that most Ohioans want common sense gun safety measures. And I, along with the support of my colleagues, acted on that. In December of 2022, by a unanimous vote, City Council passed 3 pieces of common sense gun legislation to prohibit the capacity of large firearms within our city, to prevent the reckless selling of firearms to those under the law who are prohibited from possessing one, and ensuring that those who own firearms store it safely, out of the reach of children or those with malintent. These are common sense ideas. No one who is prohibited from owning a firearm should be able to purchase one, nor should a gun owner be allowed to leave their weapons lying around their house. Our goal was not to infringe upon anyone's constitutional right, but rather to secure them. We are all guaranteed the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that includes safety. Yet, the proliferation of gun violence threatens such rights every single day in our community. We must be more invested in protecting the interests of the NRA and the gun lobby. And so I will continue to remain steadfast in my duty to serve the wishes of Columbus residents. And they are demanding more common sense gun safety protections. This State House must recognize that their actions have consequences. And their reckless choice to allow firearms to flood our state has armed thousands of Ohioans, including some of the most vulnerable among us. You simply can't have it both ways. You can't create easier access to guns while also demanding that blue cities do something about the gun violence. Last year, the city of Columbus declared gun violence as a health crisis. This declaration outlined our community's commitment and our resolve to improve the health and the quality of life of our residents. I am committed to this fight, regardless of the obstacles in my way. This is an issue that ought to be above politics because lives are on the line. We as a community, we must rise and tell our legislators that they either must address this issue or step aside. And if a judge from outside of our county wants to dictate our residents' needs, we will surely persist and continue our fight for a safer Columbus. We are doing the right thing. It's time this legislature follows suit. One life lost to gun violence is one too many. And so the time is now. The burden of fighting, marching, advocating for common sense gun legislation cannot and it should not fall solely on the mothers and the supporters who have experienced the most inconceivable loss that any human being can ever experience, and that is the loss of a child. And so I urge all of you to get involved. Wear orange, march alongside, attend the the love event. But most importantly, use your voice. Use your voice and use your vote to urge this state legislature to finally get on the right side of history and pass common sense gun safety measures for all Ohioans. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor, and I want to thank Senators Craig and DeMora, Leader Russo, Moms of Murdered Children Columbus, Moms Demand Action, all the others that have joined with us here today, council members and our city attorney. If you're one of the 91% of Ohioans that support universal background checks, we need you to contact your legislator. I don't care if you live in Chauncey or Ashtabula or Toledo or Springfield or anywhere in between. Demand action. Demand a vote. Put pressure on your state representative and your state senator to act. If you're one of the 75% of Ohioans that support red flag laws to protect women and children, family members from a violent family member, avoiding them having a gun, I need you to step up. I need you to act today. I need you to contact your state representative and state senator and demand action. If you support law enforcement and you say that you support police, I need you to contact your state representative and state senator today and demand a vote so that folks notify law enforcement when they have firearms and require them to get training so that we put our officers on a safer path. It's never been more dangerous to be a police officer than today in the wild, wild west that this legislature has created. But it's not enough to advocate and to rally. It's time for Ohioans to act. 91% of Ohioans are being ignored. They're being disregarded. They're being dismissed by this legislature. 75% who support red flag laws. This legislature doesn't care. I think the Senate President made it very clear. That does not matter to him. Well, you know what? Ohioans can change that. But they need to put pressure on their state legislators to act. We will not yield. We will not stand down. We will use every power at our disposal, including the people of Ohio, to demand action to make our community safer. And that's what today is all about. Be happy to take any questions from the press.
I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat. Just to reiterate, both on the House and the Senate side, House Democrats, Senate Democrats have repeatedly introduced packages of gun safety legislation, common sense reform, things like universal background checks, liability for safe storage, extreme risk protection orders or red flag laws, banning high capacity magazines. Listen, any iteration of common sense reform that is available, we have drafted legislation and we have introduced it. And it continues to sit in the legislature. The Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate, they refuse to move those bills forward. Again, I ask, who is fringe here? When you've got more than 90% of Ohioans who support universal background checks, I mean, apple pie is probably not that popular. or you've got more than 70% of Ohioans who support extreme risk protection orders or red flag laws that take guns away or allow law enforcement and family members to remove firearms from individuals who are a danger to themselves or others. I ask, who's fringe there? It's this legislature and the majority and the Republican leadership. They are the fringe, and it's time for them to step up. They've got the public support to do this, so they're out of excuses at this point from my perspective.
Any other questions from the press? I'll ask some of our speakers to stick around to talk to folks in the media if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you. Thanks, Senator.